Is everybody just not here? I mean,
Could be, could be.
nobody's here?
We're here, and we're here to talk about Star Trek Prodigy. So
We
I'm
are.
excited.
Yeah, but
Uh,
I just,
oh, I'm seeing three people. I'm seeing three people.
okay, it's just like, is everyone in an alternate reality?
Everybody's just psyched for the Hall H panel. They're just getting ready for it for San Diego Comic-Con. It's totally understandable.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
But there are some people here, so welcome. Thank you for joining us live to talk about Star Trek Prodigy. And of course, it's not just the people who are here, it's the people who watch afterwards, and there's always lots of views afterwards as well. So thank you all so much for joining us to talk about Star Trek Prodigy. And now I'm seeing the chat kind of come alive. We've got Tristan, we've got David, we've got Wellington, all ready to talk about Star Trek Prodigy. So I'm Dan Gunther. With me, of course, as always, the wonderful Brandi Jackola.
Thank you. Hello.
Hello. And yeah, we're talking about season 2, episodes 7 and 8. The Fast and the Curious. And
Nice.
Is There in Beauty No Truth?
Really coming to life with those titles. They really
Possibly my two favorite titles this season, honestly.
right. Impressive. I really I'm impressed with their pun game, for one thing,
Mhm.
but also reworking a title, like, "Is there in beauty no truth?" Because
Yeah.
that's, obviously, if you know the original series, you know that there was an episode called "Is There in Truth No Beauty?"
Mhm.
So, yeah.
Now this is pod racing. Yeah, yeah. There's one piece of dialogue that totally reminded me of Phantom Menace too, which we'll
Mm,
get to. But anyway, so yeah, the first episode we're talking about is The Fast and the Curious, written by Aaron McNamara and directed by Sung Shin and Sean Bishop. So another dual director episode. There's a lot going on in this episode visually. I think it makes
yes.
sense there's a couple of directors for sure. So at the end of last episode, we had Dal and his crew stealing the Infinity to take it to the coordinates where they think Chakotay is. They think that Chakotay is sending them this message, and they're going there. It's going to take a number of days to get there, though. So they end up going through a transwarp conduit. They find this abandoned Borg transwarp conduit. Always seems like a good idea. Um,
Yeah. And well, and there is dissension among the crew
Mhm.
because everybody's like, "Are we really gonna do this?" We didn't have a great encounter with the Borg the first time.
Yeah. Not to mention there's this little bit of tension too where Dal is kind of settling back into his "I'm the captain" thing, and everyone else is like,
Mm.
"No, you're not. Stop making captain's logs. Stop giving orders. You're not the captain. You're just another academy hopeful like us." Um, Probably, I would think, flushing their hopes for the academy down the toilet by stealing a ship. And anyway, we'll see how it all turns out, of course.
Yeah, well, see, that's the thing. They're hoping that bringing Chakotay back, getting the protostar where it needs to be, is going to, you know, fix that.
Mhm.
that that they're not really flushing it down the drain. I mean, I don't think they look at it that way. They look at it as trying to save Gwen. I think really that's honestly what is going
Mhm.
through their heads is the first thing that they need to do is save Gwen. How do they save Gwen? Get the protostar back to Tars Lamora. How do
Yeah.
they do that? They need Chakotay and they find the protostar, et cetera, et cetera. So it just becomes this long chain of things. But yeah, I think that's their number one motivation.
Absolutely, yeah. And I mean, Starfleet likes results, right?
They
So or
do.
maybe even not Starfleet, but Janeway. Janeway will be very forgiving with a lot of good results. So yeah, they're hoping for that. Um, Welcome, Donnie. Thank you for joining us. Yeah, that's the other thing that's going on, of course, right now is the opening, the first weekend of the Paris Olympic winter summer games. So yeah, that's drawing a lot of attention right now for sure. Um, And of course, Deadpool and Wolverine. There's so much going on this weekend. San Diego Comic-Con Shore Leave Convention down in wherever, I think it's not in Hunt Valley anymore, but wherever they're holding it this year. There's a lot of stuff going on to draw people. It's a fun time to be a nerd for sure.
Indeed. Donnie, I will only say this about Deadpool and Wolverine, and it's
Mm.
not a spoiler, but I will say this. Oh my God. That's it.
I can't wait. I haven't seen it yet. I cannot wait. Yeah. Um, so yeah, they're gonna go through this transwarp conduit and they manage to activate it. They go into it, but there's this weird probe that kind of attaches to their ship and pulls them out of the transwarp conduit and lands them on this planet. Um, so they figure out that the technology is Kazon. That's not
Oh
good.
boy.
Probably why it can use Borg tech with impunity, because the Borg have decided that the Kazon aren't worth their attention. So interesting. I just thought of that now. I'm wondering if there's a connection there, but
Mm,
it's kind of fun.
it
Um,
is.
mhm.
Hmm.
Yeah, the Borg are like, oh, it's Kazon, whatever. Just ignore them. Gross. We don't want that.
Well, at least their hair looks better in animation.
Yes, good God.
It doesn't look like somebody just put a lot of gunk in it and then stuck leaves and twigs in it everywhere.
Ugh. Yeah.
Just not right.
I've just I've always been like morbidly curious to see a Kazon in bed. Like, what's that like?
They have to put protective covering over their pillow.
Oh man. So yeah, it's Kazon technology. And after they're on the planet, Dal, Rocktalk, Jankum, and Gwyn are all taken prisoner by the Kazon, but Zero and Murph escape notice and they're able to stay with the ship. Um, and we meet what was his name? Ekfi, this Kazon who seems to have some sort of kind of golem thing going on, but a technologically fueled kind of almost DID kind of golem dual personality thing happening here,
Mhm.
which is interesting. And of course, it's like, okay, what's this mystery? How's this going to work out? What's going on there? Um, and this is where, by the way, he has the line that reminded me of episode 1, where he's like, I have a racer, the best in the quadrant, who blah blah blah. And it totally reminded me of Qui-Gon Jinn. I've recently acquired a pod in a game of chance, the fastest ever. I don't know why, but like just his cadence and intonation there, I was like, is he doing Qui-Gon?
Who knows? Who knows? Unfortunately, I can never refer to him as Qui-Gon because I worked at a toy store in the early part of the century, and the store manager, her name was Deanne, and she did not know Star Wars, and so, um, we were putting out new product, and I'm like, "Well, where do you want me to put these?" And she says, "Oh, I don't know, put them next to Coupon Jim." And so forever in my head, it's not Qui-Gon Jinn, it's Coupon Jim.
I love that. I love that. Coupon
And
Jim.
and now none of you will be able to unhear it either, so
It's
you're
amazing.
welcome.
Oh man. Um so yeah, the Ekthi outlines this race, I guess. So he has this pilot who's the fastest in the quadrant, but he needs competition. So, these kids are going to jump at the chance to uh, race this guy, I guess. Well, Dal and Jankum are going to jump at the chance. And Gwyn is kind of going to be like, yeah, count us in too. This seems weird. We want to get in on this and keep an eye on things. I liked that where Dal's jumping in with both feet, and
Mm,
Gwyn kind of says, "Count us in too." And Dal looks at her like, "What?" And she's just kind of like, "Hmm." Um, I like this dynamic that's kind of forming, where like she's kind of a bit of a hand on the shoulder of Dal to hold him
yeah.
back a little bit. And Dal's starting to recognize that too, which is good. Like, he's still a little bit arrogant, a little bit, cocky, but he's recognizing where some of those shortcomings are and where, oh, maybe I do need to stop and take kind of a sober second thought, another look at this, because Gwyn is kind of setting off my, you know, oh, what's going on here alarms, right?
Yeah. I it's Dell's thing, especially when it comes to racing, or going fast is kinda his thing,
Mhm.
as he says. Um, he's just he's forgotten about everything else, almost like he has ADHD, and, just is like, "Okay, this is the thing. Let's go. Let's do this. I'm gonna win, period." And Gwen is like, "Okay, what are the repercussions of this? How can I keep this from going off the rails?" And yeah, it's an interesting dynamic.
Mhm. So they get into this race. We've got Gwyn and Rock in one vehicle, and Dal and Jankum in the other, and a couple of other vehicles that are racing them as well. And first of all, this is gorgeous. Do you
Oh,
remember
it is.
the season 7 Voyager episode Drive? This is what
Mhm.
that episode should have looked like. Like, it's
Yes.
beautiful.
Yes. Agree completely, and I was thinking about that Voyager episode as well when I was watching this, and it's
Mhm.
just I just when I was rewatching it this morning, I was just like, "Oh, it's so pretty. Look how pretty it is."
It really is. And so much fun. Like, they're throwing all this stuff visually into it. And why not? Like, it looks absolutely beautiful. Meanwhile, we've got Ekfi, who is still having this kind of weird split personality thing going on. And he's throwing obstacles in their way, and Zero and Murph are witnessing this as well and kind of wondering what the heck's going on there. So interesting.
Yeah, and I've got to assume that these flyers have some kind of shielding on them because otherwise they would have died flying that close to lava.
I would hope so, yeah. Yeah. Although animated physics sometimes.
Yeah, I know, but it just seems to me even with racers you're gonna have shielding, but then when they hit each other, they really hit each other. So I
Mhm.
just, that's a little unclear to me.
Yeah, and they're also open air, which is interesting
Yeah,
too. You don't
don't
see
like
that a
that.
lot in Star Trek.
Don't like that at all.
Mhm. I just love how tickled Tristan is by the Coupon Gym thing. Ordered a Jedi from Wish and got Coupon Gym.
My gift to you. It's been in my head for 20 odd years, so now it's in all of yours. You're welcome.
Wonderful. Um, okay, so in the course of this race, Dal and Pog do end up crashing, and like it's a pretty severe crash. They're out of the race, as is this other competitor they've hit. And I like Gwyn and Rock turning around to help just short of the finish line. Like, they don't care about this race. Like, there's no stakes, whatever. Their friend is in trouble, right? So and it's here that they discover that there's no pilot of this other vehicle, or there's no organic pilot of this other vehicle anyway. And the mystery deepens, of course.
Yes, and I kinda had a feeling that something hinky was going on anyway,
Mhm.
because I would kept looking at the thing attached to Ekvi's head and going, "That ain't right."
Yeah. Well, Zero, meanwhile, frees the Kazon from this electronic thing, this thing that's on his head. Uh, and we learn a little bit about what's going on. There's this AI. It's a rogue AI who's turned evil. Shocker.
Wow.
um,
Voiced by the amazing Deborah Wilson. Oh my word,
yes.
her voice is like honey.
Mhm. Yeah, she was really good here. Um, and so apparently this AI tries to perfect organic beings. So its whole outlook is to, in her mind or in its mind, perfect the people to be the most effective, I guess, racers in this case. It's kind of a strange motivation, but I was kind of wondering if there's maybe some Borg influence there, right? Like they're always trying to attain perfection, melding organic and cybernetic. Like, is there kind of some connection there? It's not explicitly stated, but it's definitely language we've heard before.
Yeah, well, it's a training program that busted out of its confines and just
Yeah.
decided, "No, no, this is not good enough. You will become better. I will force you to become
Mhm.
better." And it just, that's a flaw in programming right there. So,
Yeah.
yeah, just like you should never tell a computer to create a villain that can beat Data.
It's almost like as if, one of those 90s workout DVDs became sentient and was just
Yep,
like, "Nope, you have to practice,
exactly.
you have to train all the time."
Yes. Yes, that's exactly it.
I was trying to remember one of the big names in that, but, I don't know, I can't
Mm,
remember. But, yeah, so, it takes over Murph, which was heartbreaking.
terrifying.
Poor little Murph. And eventually ends up capturing pretty much everyone here. But in an amazing bit of self-sacrifice, Zero forces themselves free, and smashes into this AI, basically destroying it, freeing everyone. But unfortunately, their body is very badly damaged, and they're kind of immobile, and it was really sad.
I was just glad that they're still alive.
Billy Blanks. That's exactly what I was trying to remember, David. Sorry. Thank you.
My husband to the rescue again.
It's exactly what I was trying to remember. Thank you. Anyway, sorry.
Don't you start, TJ, with that Key and Peele sketch. You will have me rolling. I will die. I will die of laughter, please.
Also, I like this. TJ is sitting on the back porch watching a thunderstorm gradually roll in over Pike's Peak, specifying the mountain, not Captain Pike's hair. Yes.
uh, I have a feeling that peak is not going anywhere. The hair, I mean.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's more chance of the mountain going somewhere than that hair going somewhere,
Right?
I think. There's a
Right?
lot of
There's
product in it.
so much product. You could practically smell the hairspray and gel.
Yeah. So that's kind of where we're left with these guys, with this kind of going on here. There's a little bit that's going on back on Voyager. So Majel is kind of the only one so far who's noticed that that Dal's group is acting unusual. These, if you'll remember, they're all holograms and they've had their personalities all kind of switched around. Um, and she follows Gwyn to her quarters, trying to get to the bottom of what's going on. And this is the first time we see this. So everything freezes, everything kind of slows to a crawl and completely freezes. And something is reaching through the walls to try and get Gwyn, and kind of, I would say, reacts in surprise and shock when it's not Gwyn, it's a hologram. And everything starts back up again. The Gwyn hologram is gone, and Majel finds the quarters completely empty, and we're left going, what the heck is happening here?
Yeah, and the first thing that I thought was, whatever this thing is, it was obviously fooled by this a fake life sign.
Hmm.
So, well done, Rock Talk.
Hmm. Absolutely.
That was me. It's like a pride for my baby girl.
Yeah, for sure. Um, yeah, this mystery is really cool. I like, because
Mm.
they don't explain what's going on. You're not sure what's happening. It was really well done. It was really eerie and really scary. Like they did a really good job with this.
Oh, the
Yeah,
sounds that thing makes. Ugh.
absolutely. Yeah. So we can get into our final thoughts on the episode, but first I'll whip through the continuity connections that I found in this one. So we have reference to and sound effects from a sonic toilet, which is fun.
You
Sounds
didn't
very
need
much
that.
like a modern toilet that we have, but
Yep.
of course, we have the Borg transwarp conduit, and the way they open it is using a tachyon pulse, which was the same way the Enterprise D opened a Borg transwarp conduit in Descent, which was the first time we ever heard that phrase, right? Borg transwarp conduit. The Kazon, of course, and the fact that he mentions later that they were trying to earn their Oglamar names, which would indicate this is the Kazon Oglamar, which is a specific sect of the Kazon.
Yep.
Uh, we have the reference to SETI eels for brains, which you've put in your comment in your name there. I like that.
Had
Uh,
to.
SETI eels, of course, Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. They're the brain worms that Khan uses in that scene that gave everybody nightmares in 1982.
Ugh. It sent me out of the room, let me tell you.
I believe you.
Out of the room. I was like, "Nope, I cannot do this. No ear violence for Brandi," because I had ear problems growing up, and so it was just like, "No, no,
Oh,
this is my worst nightmare."
yeah. Ugh, that's terrifying. And we also see a starship graveyard. So, um, a lot of other ships have been brought here or forced out into this area or whatever. Among them, we see a Gorn ship, which is like this style of Gorn ship from the remastered original series. We see what looks to me like the main hull of a Constellation class ship. So, like the Stargazer, Picard's old ship, like that style of ship, and a bunch of other ships. But most notably, we can see the saucer section of the USS Cairo, NCC 42136, which was actually Jellicoe's old ship. Um,
Yes.
yeah,
Ooh.
so we saw that ship in The Next Generation. The last time it was mentioned was in Deep Space Nine, and I think it was the episode In the Pale Moonlight, where they talk about how it's gone missing because it's under the command of Captain Leslie Wong at that time. And it was lost in the neutral zone during the Dominion War. And they figure that the Dominion was making sorties across the neutral zone and destroying Federation ships, with the Romulans not doing anything about it because they have a non-aggression pact with the Dominion and stuff. However, it seems that its fate may be a little different than
Mm.
they assumed in that episode. So
Yeah.
fascinating.
It is. It's such a man, they really know their Star Trek over there.
Hmm. Absolutely. I love that. That was interesting. So, final thoughts for The Fast and the Curious and a rating.
I was prepared to not like this episode very much, and because
Yeah.
pod racing. But I just thought, this seems superfluous. This seems trivial, but it really wasn't. It wasn't. There
Mhm.
was meaning to everything that happened in this episode. It did propel the plot forward, even though it felt like we were standing still for an episode. We weren't. We were not.
Mhm.
So I actually really enjoyed it. I liked seeing Gwen emerge more as a leader, and Zero the hero. My goodness. I
Mhm.
mean, willing to do absolutely anything, include give up their life for their friends. Just wow. Just
Yeah.
wow. I mean, we already are all loved Zero, but this just kind of really reinforced the belief that they are a truly beautiful and selfless being.
Mhm.
So I will give it ooh, I will give it one giant pile of dead starships, which
Ooh.
seems like it's bad, but it's
Yeah. I like that. I like that. Uh, yeah, I enjoyed this episode as well. I feel like I kind of went into it with that same attitude that you were saying, and maybe even like the first time I watched it through, I was kind of like, yeah, this seems like a pretty standalone adventure. It's not really tied to the main plot, but I don't mind that. I think it's interesting that we get a little kind of standalone adventure here, but at the same time, events in it whether that's the stuff on Voyager, kind of the little clues that'll lead them to, and then of course the big thing that happens there at the end of the episode. And then also, of course, Zero's sacrifice and what that is going to do going forward for their character in the next few episodes for sure. I think really propels things forward quite a bit. So, yeah, I'm going to give this one. Uh, I'm gonna say one really well orated non-captain's log in which Dal brings Gwyn in to finish it off at the end because yeah, that's awesome.
Perfect. I like
Yeah,
it.
cool. So yeah, let's move on to the next episode, which is There in Beauty No Truth, which of course in and of itself is a nice little continuity reference to the original series episode Is There in Truth No Beauty, the episode that introduced Medusans to us, and kind of continuing the story here quite a bit. So yeah. um so Is There in Beauty No Truth, episode 8, written by Keith Sweet II and directed by Ruolin Lee and Andrew L. Schmidt. So another dual directed episode for this one. um
There's a lot going on visually.
yeah,
A lot.
absolutely. So the very start of this episode, we have a personal log by Zero, and this one really tugged at my heartstrings. And
Mm,
I think there's a lot being said here about a number of topics and stuff. But Zero is trying to keep this brave face, the odd funny quip and that kind of thing to kind of do their part for the crew, but they feel like they're a burden. And when they said that, like, that just broke my heart, that they're feeling that way. uh, so yeah, that was my first thought there. But a telepath eventually makes contact with Zero, saying that they exist in a non-corporeal colony on the planet Ovidia 4, and that they can help Zero. They can give them a new body, which is exciting. That's awesome. And I love this kind of debate among the crew where and Dal acknowledges this later in the episode, which I
mm.
really love, where he's like, no, we've got to keep our eye on the prize. We got to get here. We got to do the thing. And everyone else is basically like, Zero made a huge sacrifice for us, and like, we need to help them. And if this is how we help them, like, we need to take the time to do that. And again, this part broke my heart with
Mm.
Zero again, just being like, no, it's okay. I understand the mission, blah, blah, blah. But as soon as they say, yeah, we're going to do it, they're so happy. Like, the joy that they express. I'm like, oh, you need to speak up for yourself and say what you want and what you need. And maybe that's a
Yeah.
lesson I need to take myself a bit too. But
Same. Yeah, just like Rutherford said. You mean I can just ask for things I deserve?
guess so. Yeah.
So yeah, here's and I've been thinking about this for a bit, and it's finally kind of solidified in my brain. The whole thing with Dal going, no, we've got to go forward, we've got to do this, they've got this one thing that they are working towards. And I'm like, yeah, but you know what? Side quests level you up, dude. Side quests
Yes,
level you up. So
absolutely.
you have time to do this side quest, so do it because the rewards will be worth it. That's
Mhm.
how I look at that, is that, yeah, you can try and make that straight trajectory to your goal, but, in the RPG we call life, you're not gonna make it just by putting on blinders and heading straight for that. You need to have all these other experiences on the way.
Yeah. And like I said, I love that he acknowledges towards
Yes.
the end in that quiet moment with Gwyn where he's like, I'm really glad you convinced me. Sometimes I think too much about, the destination, not the journey, right? That's the lesson of Voyager. But uh yeah, there's other considerations and stuff. And again, this is, I think, Dal recognizing the strengths that Gwyn has that makes up for his shortcomings, and he's again starting to recognize that, which is really great.
Dave, don't bring the blood of Lathander into this, okay?
I
We've
pretend to
been
get it. I
we
don't, but
we've been playing Baldur's Gate 3. So, yeah.
oh, there's a great, I every once in a while I go on a like rabbit hole of watching reels on Facebook, and there's a
Mhm.
great one where this girl who's never played Baldur's Gate, doesn't know anything about it, has been taking suggestions from like her watchers for things to say to her boyfriend who is playing it constantly, and his reactions when she's dropping all these random references in, and he's just like, "Are you playing this? How do you know?" It's so funny. I don't get any of the references at all because I don't play it, but it was the funniest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, the blood of Lathander, despite its name, it's actually a mace that,
Hmm.
blinds the undead. It's
Oh,
really
okay.
pretty, like, it can actually be a light source, so if you have any characters in your party that don't have dark vision, say, like a human, then,
Hmm.
you can still find your way if you're carrying that mace. So
Nice.
I just always play a character that has dark vision because why would I play a human? That is boring.
I just realized I forgot to change my name too.
Shame! Everybody hold a moment while Dan puts up his name for this episode.
It's another Jankum Pog reference. Ah, it's funny. Season one, I was like, Jankum's the most annoying of them. I don't know if I like him that much. This season, I'm just like, I love this guy. He has a great moment in this episode too, by the way,
He
that
does, he
genuinely, I
does.
just love him.
Yeah, I love them all, every single one of them.
Yes,
Every single one of them.
absolutely. Uh-oh, Coupon Jim's getting out there. It's happening.
Spread it far and wide, my friends. Let's make this 20-plus-year-old thing a worldwide phenomenon.
I love it. Amazing. Okay, so they do decide to go to this planet, and they learn there from the local population. Beautiful design on these bodies, by the way, just gorgeous. So it's a colony of non-corporeal beings who have been able to create corporeal bodies thanks to the unique qualities of this planet. Um, and they make the offer to Zero for one of these bodies. And after talking about it a bit with their friends, Zero's on board and gonna do this. There's the little ominous thing though when they put them in the pod.
You
You did
mean the
not.
sleep pod like on the Nostromo in Alien?
Exactly like it. I also thought of the Cellular Regeneration and Entertainment Center of Dr. Geiger in Deep Space Nine.
Mm. Funny how they called it Dr. Geiger,
Hmm.
because Geiger did a lot of the design for Alien.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's all connected, you guys! It's
Interesting.
all connected.
But yeah, we have the one saying, "You did not tell them everything," which is a little ominous. Um, and it's at this point, like, if this were another Star Trek show, or if it had been like years in the past, I'd be like, they're hiding some deep, dark secret and it's going to be bad. And I was really hoping that wouldn't be the route they took. And it's not quite the route they take, which I appreciated. But I think there's some interesting things that come up that, yeah, I just really liked how they did this. There's an agenda there. There is
Mm.
a reason why this being is keeping things from Zero, and it's a little, I wouldn't say nefarious or evil, problematic maybe would be, you know.
Mm.
I think. Or
No, I agree. I feel like, it didn't come from a place of malice at all. I
no.
I don't feel that it had any malice intent or what have you. Um, it was making I think in their mind, in Ion's mind, they were providing, a way for Zero to make the decision based on all of their experiences
Mhm.
instead of just telling them, this is what, the deal is, because they had never experienced physical sensation, and so they had to experience all of the senses in Ion's mind. They had to experience all of the senses in order to make a complete, judgment on what they wanted to do.
Mhm.
And so that's what I where I feel like Ion was coming from. It wasn't about deception, it wasn't about malice, it wasn't about any kind of ill intent. It was about allowing a life form to experience the full range of what was possible before making the decision of what they wanted to do.
Mhm. Yeah, and I mean, and Wellington brings up exactly, uh, something I was gonna say, which is, as someone who doesn't have a lot of experience as, like, in the NB world or anything like that, I appreciate these voices. So, Wellington, thank you. As an NB, I feel seen and heard, makes me cry every time I watch. Thank you, Trek, Dan, and Brandy, for this safe space. All.
Mm,
And the writing and acting is brilliant. Excellent story writing. That's awesome. Thank you so much.
yeah,
Um, and I really appreciate, uh, your view on this as well, because like there's a lot of issues that this is bringing up, I think, that I'm just wholly unqualified to talk about, but I do see them, and I do see those um topics and themes being addressed, which I I think is amazing and wonderful too. So um yeah, and I get what you're saying about Ion and their kind of their perspective on it. I'm always of the camp that, like, the more information the better, and
agree, agreed, completely agree.
yeah, I j it's a little bit, it's almost like not trusting Zero to make
Mm,
their own decision. It's taking some of that agency away from them. To like, manipulative is almost too strong, but it's just it's nudging them in a direction that they may not have gone, and
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, well, despite being able to interpret what I thought was going on in Ion's head, that doesn't mean I agree with what they did.
No, absolutely, yeah.
So,
No,
but I
I
can
and I see from their perspective too, for sure.
yeah. So, but it's just that's the thing is I'm just we still have a hard time in this world, um, with representation, and the fact that they're doing this kind of representation in Star Trek, and that it's in a show that is accessible to children. We are
Mhm,
teaching these children that this is okay. This is how the world is. There isn't just male and female. There isn't just, you know, heterosexual. There isn't just anything. There are so many choices. There's so many ways of existing, and I'm not saying
mhm,
that being in B is a choice. I'm not saying that at all. I am saying that, there are ways to choose your own future,
mhm,
and it's unfortunately, I mean, Trek is the ideal in this regard. Unfortunately, our world is not, and so
mhm.
I just, it's we have to have these safe spaces. We have to, and everybody's welcome here except for trolls and bigots.
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
yeah, I am going to discriminate against trolls and bigots
Mhm.
because that's what discrimination is for.
I don't tolerate the intolerant. So
Agreed. Agreed.
definitely. And Wellington, thank you so much as well for being so generous. That's huge.
Yeah.
We love you. We really do.
We do
You're
love you.
awesome.
We're glad you're here always.
Absolutely. Uh, so Zero wakes up in a new the coupon gym thing. Yeah.
DJ, you're killing me. You posted a Facebook group.
Hmm.
Yes, get it out there. And remember who
Love it.
told you first.
Oh, I can't wait to see this. Um, so Zero wakes up in their new body, and I I've seen some stuff, some discussion like long term as far as Prodigy goes. I love this look for Zero. I
It's
think
beautiful.
they look wonderful, and
They
I
do.
love that they're experiencing all these new things. They have the feast of senses, right, where they're eating all this food for the first time. They're dancing. They're just having. They're feeling things. And Angus Imrie, the voice acting in this,
Mm.
just really sells it. It's so good. Zero, such a good character.
Angus is a genius. That's all I have
Mhm.
to say.
Absolutely. This is where you get Zero's belch, by the way, which is very impressive. And if you can impress Jankum Pog with a belch, that's saying something.
Hmm.
Apple sound,
Absolutely.
pungent bouquet.
And and that's my kind of where mine comes from too before that, because it's like, oh, my
Mm,
belly is angry because it lets out a noise. We call it a growl. It's not actually really a growl, obviously, but and I was just like, I feel you. I feel you. I feel you. I don't like it when my belly's angry either. It needs to be fed frequently.
yeah. Tristan, I had the same thought that like, yeah, yeah. We know what all the senses.
Yes, well,
Yeah.
there are ways to express those senses without sex.
But it's a very important part of the human or the corporeal existence, I guess.
True.
So
It is, but it's not everything. It's not
no,
everything.
no, for sure. The dancing I really enjoy. And this is the moment where I love Jankum and I love Rock Talk as well. Um, Rock Talk wants to dance, but says, "Oh, I'm too big. I'm going to step on people's toes and stuff." And I really felt for Rock there. Like there's a lot here with um like she's never been not body positive or anything like that, but there's just that hint of it here where she's very conscious of her physicality and self-conscious about it in some ways. And I loved Jankum here, where he's
Mm.
like, "Nah, don't worry, my dancing style clears the dance floor." And just makes space for her and lets her participate and feel good about participating. I love that. Um, you know,
Yeah.
as somebody who's always been a little on the bigger side, right? I felt that. Like I really felt that watching that scene.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I'm a bigger person too. So,
Mhm.
which, by the way, my particular body is actually what used to be the, height of beauty back in the day, so
Mhm.
y'all can suck it.
Mine was an indicator of great wealth. So
Yes, that's exactly the same thing. It's like the soft belly, the curvy hips, the giant boobs. I mean, everybody wanted that because that meant you could eat for days.
the hands unaccustomed to physical labor.
Yes, dainty and white and soft. Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, I loved that scene. I thought that was wonderful. Dal's enjoying this drink. It's just the best drink he's ever had, but apparently it's made of the stomach juices of something.
A hog.
A
Hog.
hog of some sort, yes.
Oh,
Hmm. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah,
Still tastes
that
good
made
though.
yeah. It tastes good till you know what it is.
Yes, definitely. Um, so then there's going to be the running of the, Nazamon. The running of the Nazamon, which will help them to experience the, missing sense, fear, which is a little ominous. And I liked the way, like, the tension is building in the scene where this, where is it Ion that's telling, it's this one of them is telling, um Gwyn and Dal about this. And I love Dal's response where he just says what we're thinking. He's like, "Hey, you're kind of scaring us. What's this about?" Like, I feel like a lot of TV shows could undercut a lot of, just get right to the point by saying like, "Hey, what you're saying is really kind of freaky. Uh,
Mhm.
what's this about? What's going on here?" I like that.
Yeah. And, TJ, thank you for the, history lesson on the phrase orgy.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I appreciate that. I like a good etymological discussion.
Yeah.
So,
It's good to know where these things started
mhm.
and how they get warped over the years, I guess, in some cases.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense for sure. Um, Wellington, aw, I appreciate your wonderfully awkward. Coming
Welcome
from
to my world.
a group of wonderfully awkward people, absolutely.
Cannot dance. No, no, no. It's,
Yeah.
I have been made fun of in clubs with my friends.
Mhm.
Not that I went to clubs. I went to a club once with a group of friends, and actually, it was the same group of friends that I knew before I knew Dave, and because of this group of friends, he and I actually eventually met because our
Hmm.
friend groups collided, and, yeah, but I went to a club, and I was made fun of. I mean, I was, like, 19, 20 at the time. And, there were some guys making fun of me over in one corner, and I was
Ugh.
like, "Well, I'm just gonna keep dancing."
Yeah, just keep dancing.
Yep.
Hell with them. Blech. Um, so this is also where we learn exactly what was being kept from Zero, and that's that their physical forms will deteriorate if they leave Ovidia 4. So everybody chooses to stay there once they've experienced all the senses because they can't leave. Or if they do leave, their physical bodies will deteriorate. So they want to go find Zero before this running of the Nazamon, so that they can make this decision, uh, with all of the knowledge, right? Uh, so this running of the Nazamon, I love the like enthusiasm of everybody, like pick me. Like, oh my
Just
god.
wow. I was like, "Girl, you" well, actually, I don't know if it was a girl. So, they were
Hmm.
probably non-binary still. Because it's hard to say with beings of energy. Some beings of energy, I don't know if they identify
Yeah.
as a certain gender. My guess would probably be, now that I'm thinking about it, no.
Some do.
So, I
That was part of the one that was hanging out with Zephram Cochrane.
yes, I just thought that as
Yeah,
soon as
the
you started
companion.
saying it. Yeah, she was possessive, um, extremely possessive, like, in a bad way,
Yeah.
but, anyway, one of them was so just so joyful. It's like they were just, you know, it's like they were the beginning of The Sound of Music when Maria von Trapp just swirling around and singing.
Yeah,
Just
and
I
in some
thought,
ways
"You're gonna die."
yeah. Some ways I get it, like, that they did a good job of explaining and showing that, like, that rush of fear, right? Like, there's a reason we have roller coasters, there's a reason, uh, horror movies are so popular, right? Like, that
Mhm,
rush you get is very compelling, and I kinda get that, like, Daredevil stuff, all of this stuff has been a part of human culture forever, right? Like that there's reasons why people do these really dumb things to get that rush, right? So, um that was interesting. I like the characterization of that. Uh, the Nazamon itself, this big flying manta ray, basically, at one point does get Dal, and Dal's like in its mouth, and Zero gets in there as well to rescue him. They are so lucky that this creature does not seem to have a swallow reflex of any kind.
Right?
It just kind of,
It's like,
whew,
where is
thank
its
goodness.
is its stomach and its tail? Because basically the inside of that thing looked like some empty hangar bay. I mean, what was going on there?
Well, it just got really lucky, I think, there. Whew. Um, but so this is all being explained to Zero. They get out of the thing. He does, or they do have that rush. They really enjoyed it, enjoying all those senses and stuff. But I liked that final conversation that Zero has with Ion, where like they don't really call them out on it, but there's definitely that annoyance in there, right? Where they
Mhm.
say, the information that was kept from me for reasons I don't understand. Um, and even with all of that, they make the decision to go with their friends and continue this mission. And I also really appreciated that there's no pushback on that.
Mm.
Like, Ion's like, that's a great decision. We wish you well. Like, that made me happy. I really appreciated that. And like you said, from Ion's perspective, they weren't being, in their mind, they weren't being duplicitous or anything. It was just like you said, um they had their rationale for it, and they genuinely thought from their perspective that was the best thing, right? So
It does make me wonder, what if the Feast of the Senses hadn't been going on when they got there?
Mhm,
Would Ion have made a different choice? Would Ion have said everything outright? It's
mhm.
curious, makes me wonder.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is a lesson, that I really appreciate as well. Zero does stand up for themself, advocates for themself, but isn't angry, isn't, vitriolic, but also isn't yielding in that way. Like, they don't say like, "Oh, I'm okay with what you did." They make clear that that was not what they would have liked to have happened, and I appreciate that.
Zero only gets angry when their family is threatened.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that character so much.
I know, right?
Um, yeah, so like I said, they make the choice to leave, and they go on their way. Um, Meanwhile, back on Voyager, so we haven't really touched on this story yet. Magel has alerted the senior crew about Dal and his friends, their personality change, and they're observing them. And they do realize, yeah, something's weird here, something's going on. And the doctor basically, monologuing about his hollow novel, realizes what has happened. um, what was uh the exact quote? It's like, talking about the hollow novel, he said, "Oh, which part? When Valencia is torn between lovers, or when Rodrigo created a hollow duplicates of himself to evade detection? Oh no! Oh no!"
Yeah, which Zero would have known as well because of asking about
Mhm.
the Doctor's Hollow novel. Yeah.
That was great. So they confirm it when they turn off all the holographic signatures in the room except for the doctor, and they all disappear. Gwyn's hologram, however, has been missing for 2 days since that incident, but they do manage to recover it. And she's kind of trapped in this, as Magel says, lost in a terrible memory, and that's that creature that was going for her, right? um Terrifying ending again,
Mhm.
to that. So that was interesting, and of course the mystery deepens, which, I think we'll figure out next episode what that's all about. But yeah. So that's the end of that episode. There are a few continuity references I want to talk about. So this colony of non-corporeal beings, they mention, of course, the Medusans, which is what Zero is, the Paxons, who were from the TNG episode Clues. They took over people's bodies and wanted to stay hidden and stuff, and the Calamarain from Deja Q, which is the big gas cloud that saw its opportunity when Q was powerless to take its revenge on being picked on by him, I guess.
Mhm.
When they first arrive on Ovidia 4, they're wearing the visors from Is There in Truth No Beauty, which
Yep.
protect against um, Medusan influence, but they don't need them, of course. And as who do we see here? Oh, as Wellington mentions here for sure, we finally get to see Parisi's squares. It's been mentioned since the very early days of TNG, and we've seen costumes. We've learned that you require an ion mallet. We know that it's dangerous, but this is the first time we've ever been able to actually see the game. So that's pretty cool.
Well done.
Yeah.
Well done.
So, final thoughts on Is There in Beauty No Truth and ratings for the episode.
Um, this episode was beautiful and heartbreaking and beautiful and wonderful all at the same time. Um, I really am confused about the Nazamon and its internal workings. I just don't get how that works because basically its entire body was one big cavern.
Yep.
How does that work? How does that work? Is everything in the tail? That's weird. Is it in the
A
wings?
lot.
Where's where would you get swallowed up by that? I really want to know. It's bothering me. But seeing it flying up above the clouds, that was actually a really beautiful sequence, beautiful animation and everything. Uh, I honestly, in my heart, knew that Zero would never leave the family,
Mhm.
and that they would accept the consequences of that, even knowing that those consequences were going to be hard. So, ah, I think it's amazing. I think it's a fantastic episode, and I'm just really glad that there wasn't some big horrible thing going on down on the planet. Because when I saw those pods that they were putting him in, I'm like, "No! That can't be good." But it was fine. It was fine. It was fine. So, I I would give this, 2 giant rings around a planet
Mm,
whose decaying matter allows you to have a corporeal body if you're an energy being.
that's a great rating. Yeah, I loved this episode. I Zero is I don't like to use the word favorite, but like they're right up there as one of my absolute favorite characters in Star Trek, maybe? I
Agree,
just
agree.
love that character, and
Mhm.
this story was so good. So many moments that just kind of made my heart go into my throat. Um, yeah, I don't have much more to say other than I'm going to give this one giant, flying, biologically perplexing, Nazamon.
Excellent.
Yeah. So, there we go. That's another, 2 episodes of Star Trek Prodigy in the bag. And next week will be our 5th live show doing Prodigy, season 2, which will bring us to the halfway point, and I'm very excited about that. So,
Mhm.
next episode, we will be doing The Devourer of All Things, part 1 and 2. So, I'm
That's
really
not ominous at all.
No, not at all. I
Mhm.
liked, when they released the titles earlier, and it was somebody had basically translated the French titles.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
and so I think originally, like, when I listed these episodes and I didn't realize that's what they had done, I thought they had they released the titles or whatever. And I think these ones were the time devouring monsters or something like that
Mm.
was the title. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Um, and then yeah, when the official English titles came out, it was the Devourer of All Things. Both very good
Yeah.
titles.
Well, and it was weird because when Netflix first, like for day one of Prodigy on Netflix, there were no titles on the actual, I mean, there were titles shown in the episode with the
Mhm.
credits, but it just said episode 1, episode 2,
Yeah.
episode 3, episode 4, and it was days before they actually got the titles in there.
Yeah, it was the same for the screener. Well, I mean, I guess they're the same. They just release it early for people to get this. It was the same as episode 1, 2, 3. So yeah,
Yeah.
interesting. But yeah, I like that title. I'm looking forward to that. It's gonna be it's kind of the if this season were released like the way the first season was, it would be like the mid-season break kind of thing.
Mhm.
Although they were all released on one day, so there's no such thing as any kind of break.
No. No, there wasn't. There was
Yeah.
only break for me to make lunch while I was binging it.
Yes.
That was the only break.
The only breaks we have are the ones we impose on ourselves.
Yes, and, unfortunately, if I don't have a meal break, my belly gets angry.
Well, it's funny you say that. We should probably get going and go have some meal breaks before
Yep.
we get all the news out of Hall H at the San Diego Comic-Con. 1:45 p.m. Pacific is when that big panel for Star Trek starts, and I'm sure there's going to be a ton of news. I'm going to be hurriedly writing my This Week in Trek video based on that, I'm sure. So
Yep.
have a great rest of your weekend, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. And we'll see you next week for the Devourer of All Things. Live long and prosper.
They vlogs improper.
That too.